For coming down for this wonderful and insightful event. Okay, to each and every one of you, welcome. Today we have our special guests from Google, Mr. Yoshiaki Gondokusumo and Mr. Samuel Jean Blanc. So I'd like to invite them for the opening speech. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, guys. So we're actually invited by one of our colleagues to present for you today. And we gathered a couple of slides on not only what's happening in the overall online economy in the region, but also on your specific vertical, which is car insurance. So we took some data from our system to present to you what's happening right now in the market. But just to begin with, a sentence that I really like, and I think that applies to what's happening right now today in this room, is the Google principle, which is if companies like Google, but also like yourselves, do not embrace change in technology today, then probably in the next 5, 10, 15 years, other competitors that do will actually take over, and these companies will probably no longer exist. And we've seen a lot of examples of this, being BlackBerry, Yahoo, or a lot of other big competitors that were at the top of their game at one point, and then got lazy and eventually collapsed. But I think it's not going to happen to you guys because you are in this room. And just to give you a little insight of what Google has begun, so we talk about Google, we think about search in most countries, but actually Google is much more than this. There's now an entire galaxy of products that Google has. And I think the one message that I want to give to you guys is that Google today has 7 platforms where we have more than 1 billion users, so monthly active users. And these platforms are very strong, growing. And actually, why are they so strong today and why they're still growing is because of this region. So just to give you, I think it's a good moment to give you the background on my own career. So I've been at Google for 3 years, and I was managing top media agencies on the French market for 3 years out of Dublin, which is the European headquarters. And I just moved to Singapore a month and a half ago. So this region is actually pretty new to me, but I'm amazed because I traveled to Malaysia, I went to Philippines as well for work, and I'm just amazed about the energy that is in this region. So one of the reasons why we're probably going to be at 2 billion users in each of these platforms in the next 5 years is because of what's happening in Asia. So what's happening in the region? I gathered some very global figures. And it actually comes from a study that we did with Temasek. So Temasek is the investment arm of Singapore, and we did a study together with them to understand what's going on in the region and what if we look at 2025, what is the situation going to look like? So today is actually the 4th largest region in terms of online users, 260 million. But I think what's more interesting, and again coming from France, where the market is pretty saturated in terms of online users, is the growth that we're going to see in the next 5 years. So by 2020, 480 million online users in Southeast Asia. So that's very, very impressive. Not just the number, but especially the growth. So in 5 years, to add twice the amount of online users that we have today is really incredible. And there's not a single region across the planet where we're seeing the same kind of trends. Even in Africa, where the growth is very high, we're not seeing this kind of trend, so very exciting. And if you have one number to remember is, let's say 4 million, so every month 4 million new users of internet across the region. So why is this happening right now? For 4 main reasons. The first one is access. So more and more telco companies are giving cheaper and cheaper access to internet across Asia. Second reason is that population in Asia is very young. So I come again from France, where I think people are the population is getting older. Here it's actually the inverse. So I was, as I said, in the Philippines, I think half the Filipino population is under 25. This is, I have never seen that, and you can feel it in the street, you can feel it in the energy, you can also feel it in the companies that we work with. When I go to a marketing, I actually have a nice example. I used to work with PepsiCo, back in France. Pepsi is the 2nd largest food and beverage company in the world. And I used to talk with the marketing team, and they used to say, no, we're not going to work with Google because we don't believe in digital. And who was telling this to me? It was the marketing director. And the marketing director, again, no offense, he was 65 years old. He was very old, and he grew up with TV, and for him, YouTube and digital was mainly for his kids. And then eventually he retired, and a new person came in, and finally we were able to work together with Pepsi. But I go in meetings in the Philippines, in Malaysia, also in Singapore, and I see people 20, 25, 30, and they hold very high marketing positions inside companies. So it's very refreshing, and I think the drive is mostly in your way rather than in what's happening in France, for example, where the growth is actually slower. So coming to growth, GDP, 5.3% every year. France, I think this year is going to be 1.2. So you guys across the region again are growing 5 times faster than what France is. And then finally, I think the financial system, again, if I do a parallel with Africa, Africa is also growing, but the internet economy is not growing as fast because the financial system is not as strong as what we have in Asia. So this doesn't allow for more transaction online, for instance. So I think, again, thanks to these 4 factors, you guys are in a very good position in Southeast Asia. And then last slide about this study that we did with Temasek, and again, I would be happy to share the entire study with you, is what does it mean in terms of money, in terms of dollars. So two years ago, let's say a year ago, in the region, 31 billion, the internet economy, so 31 billion turnover being made on the internet. 2025, 200 billion, so let's say, what's that, times 6.5? So that's huge. And again, that's why we are excited by the future across Asia, is because of these numbers. So more transaction onto retail, onto e-commerce, onto travel. So this is very exciting numbers for us in Southeast Asia. So as I said, I've dwelled enough on what's happening in the region. Let's get concrete and let's see what's happening actually for you guys in your industry. So we pulled out actually some very interesting numbers. I think you guys are all car dealers in the room, correct? Mostly car dealers? Yes? Okay. So again, we took the study, we made a study about what's happening in the car industry, and what we actually notice is that most people actually, especially if it's their first car, do not know what brand they're going to buy. So there's a lot of influence for, I think most of you are in the car industry at least, correct? Okay. So there's a lot of potential for actually brands and companies and car dealers to influence the model of the car that people are going to buy, especially if it's their first car. And we can see that if it's their second car, if they're renewing a car, they've already tested a car and they probably are pretty loyal to the brand that they've used. And then the second thing is that actually the car process, the process of buying a car, and it's pretty similar with actually car insurance, is very long. So there's so many touch points. We've actually shifted from an economy where in just a few touch points people would make their decision. So this would be the economy of TV or newspapers. So you see an